Study a master's degree in football business or football coaching and analysis right here in Australia. GIS is the largest provider of sports degrees in the UK, with campuses at Wembley and Etihad Stadium. Learn online with unique access to the iconic MCG and a big-hitting Australian industry network. Be one of the first Australians to get a football master's degree and join GIS's global network of football leaders. Apply now to start in February 2023. Learn more at gis.sport/FNR. That's gis.sport/FNR.
Pickett, she lays it off. Teresa Polias. It's an absolute peach. Ayres driving. What a hit from Melina Ayres. Wow. And Sam Kerr has a hat-trick.
And we're back here on Radio Dub. I think that's the intro I'm going to stick with. We're back. It's simple, it's easy, it works. And you know what? Today when I say we're back, it's not just me and Oscar. It's not me and Miranda Templeman. It's me, Oscar, and Lachie Flanagan.
We almost ended up to a whole Miranda Templeman between us.
Yeah, of course. You guys.
Imagine if we got all of the co-hosts of the show in one room.
room.
We'd be struggling. We'd have to bring back Josh as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's a revolving door, Pokuah.
Yeah.
Maybe you have to look at why do I have so many co-hosts? Why do they come and go? It's time to turn that in on yourself.
It's a toxic relationship, you and your co-hosts.
Yeah, I'm going to check CVs again. I think I need to recheck it and see maybe I need to fire some people. But it's okay. You can come in temporary,
And that's why we come in and out.
Exactly.
We're on the edge.
So,
job
well,
security.
if you've been listening to Radio Dub for a while, you hear our intro. We have some great players being mentioned in our intro. But it's only right that we bring those players on. And this week, we are lucky enough to be joined by an excellent co-caller for me, Teresa Polias, and an excellent addition to Radio Dub. Oh, okay, I'm just speaking for myself. It's great times. And an excellent addition to Dub Zone on Network 10 Paramount Plus. Teresa, thank you for joining us today. How are you?
Hey guys, it's a pleasure to be on with you. Happy to be here talking, football with you guys. And it's funny, that intro, there weren't many of those highlights. You got hold of one of them.
I think we have to thank Josh Parrish for that, because I think Josh was the one who found it. And it's worked. It's very distinctive. And I think the first time I met you, I was like, oh, Teresa, do you know which goal this call is from? I don't actually think I know what game it is. Do you know what game it is that call's from?
I feel like it was the game against my second goal against Brisbane Roar at Seymour Shaw Park.
Okay.
Because I'm pretty sure Prinny laid the ball off for me and I finished it. So that's my guess.
We'll go with it. We can't. It's your goal.
Who are we to challenge you, the scorer of the goal?
Exactly. We've no
I'm
idea.
not entirely sure, but one of three.
You're more sure than us.
That's for sure. It's for sure. Teresa, obviously this season's been different. You're not playing. We've all enjoyed watching you play football. You've been a loyal servant to the Sydney FC and played some great football. But how's it been like stepping on the other side and doing a lot more media stuff?
Yeah, look, it's obviously a different perspective for me. Obviously, really miss playing, but at the moment, life's a bit different and priorities have changed for the moment. So, I've taken on a new sort of role in the game. One that, I didn't know was going to come. It was quite a surprise. And, I took time to sort of think about it, and looking back and me even thinking about it, I can't believe I even thought twice about it. So really loving doing some co-commentary and having a seat on the couch of Dub Zone too. It's been really, really fun.
Is the best part about Dub Zone putting Teo in his place when it comes to Sydney FC slander?
Look, I can't say I don't love that. It's very satisfying, and I am flying the Sydney flag. But no, it's been a lot of fun, and it's always daunting, going up against Teo because he's just full of so much knowledge. So I have to come prepared. It's been a lot of fun.
Well, I was just thinking back to the conversation about when did that goal that includes that iconic commentary actually happen? Between the four of us, we're not sure. I'm pretty sure Teo would absolutely. He would absolutely know.
He would know. And I don't know if he was calling the game that I scored my first goal in. So that's why I'm thinking that wasn't Teo. The third goal I scored was a free kick. So I'm trying to kind of do the process of elimination there. And I'm pretty sure I've got it. But yeah, I don't know how I could sort of check. Yeah, I haven't got any recordings of it or anything.
We trust you. Maybe we'll get Teo. Maybe we'll figure it out. One time we do a radio dub show, we'll go through each of the goals and we'll figure out when these games are actually from.
Teresa Polias goals special.
Teo will know.
He'll know.
Teo will definitely know. So we'll ask him when we see him next.
Well, Teresa, you spoke about how exciting it's been to, step onto that other side and be involved in the media. I guess just looking at the bigger picture, there's obviously been so much more media coverage given to the A-League women's competition in particular, and you've got programs like Dub Zone and a lot of new voices in the commentary booth. I guess, how have you seen that whole development of media with the A-League women's?
Yeah, it's been great and a real step in the right direction. I was thinking from my perspective as a player, if we had Dub Zone in my time, I'd be loving it. I'd be watching it whenever I could, and as long as games didn't clash. And it's definitely a step in the right direction, and it's what the game needs. We need honest punditry, and hopefully it's something that continues and just gets better and better.
And we have, Teresa, seen a few examples in recent weeks of members of the Liberty A-Leagues, playing, coaching staff, engage with some of the material that comes out, not least the combined Big Blue 11 graphic that dropped a few weeks ago in the lead up to that game that Ante Irich's side ended up winning resoundingly. Now, you did not put together that graphic. Maybe your Sydney FC predilections, forced you to step away. But what did you think when that graphic first popped up? What did you make of Grace and Kath's selections?
I saw the graphic and look, I respected it as their opinion. That's great. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. I was going to comment on it with my own 11. I didn't, for whatever reason. My daughter probably started crying or something. So yeah, I didn't end up putting my own out. In hindsight, I kind of wish I did, just to show that just the reaction from people. People got a bit upset by it, and I guess maybe a third opinion would have shown that this really is based on opinions, and not everyone might have the same opinion as you, and that's totally okay. I put out the half-season team of the year so far and didn't get too much backlash about that. I got a bit of flack for not including Cote Rojas, which, is again, fair. It's fair. And, but I did what I did. If I did it again, I might change it. Every day I was sort of chopping and changing. But, no, it was great to, get reactions. And you know what? And it sparked a lot of players, which, hey, maybe it proved the point.
Yeah. I like that. I think that we need more spice in the dub. I think that we just need. I want to see more players' personality. I want to hear players go, "I'm the best. This is my territory." I want to see people compete to be the title of the best. But Teresa, besides Sydney FC, because I know they've been very impressive this season, what other side have impressed you with their play and have impressed you with their development throughout the season?
Look, obviously Western United have come in, their first season, and they're flying. They're absolutely flying, and it's been impressive to see in an established league, although it's changed in the last couple of years, the composition of the league and the types of players going around. But for them to come in and reach top spot and then maintain top spot has been so impressive. And the player management that Torcaso undertakes and recruitment has been really, really impressive. So credit to them. They had a couple sort of stumbles in a couple rounds, but bounced back against City on the weekend really impressively. So I've been so impressed with Western United this season.
On that subject of development, I know Pokuah promised to go away from Sydney, but I want to dip back there just for a second, because you talk about development improving in leaps and bounds, and someone who really springs to mind for me this season is Sarah Hunter, someone who before you guys both were at Sydney FC, was someone who actually, correct me if I'm wrong, squared up to you during a New South Wales NPL game when you were playing for Olympic, and I think she was at the Institute. But she's filled one of the midfield slots that's been vacated by yourself. What do you put her sort of rapid development and improvement this season down to? What is it about Sarah Hunter that has made her, such a headline player this season at such a, relatively young age?
Yeah, she's been so impressive for Sydney, and she's always had the talent. You can't deny that. That's undeniable. But coming into Sydney has been a great move for Sarah. She's had a great run with the young Matildas as well. She's been to a Youth World Cup now. To have that experience under your belt at such a young age is incredible. And something that really impresses me about her is her confidence for such a young age. It's something I wish I could have had a bit more of in my game. And it's something that's, she goes out with this air of confidence every game and scores, when the team needs it, and, isn't afraid to be brave and try new things and take risks in good areas, and it pays off for her. So, she's obviously got all the groundwork as a youngster. She built, a great talent in the fact that she's very good on the ball, very technical player, but having that confidence to go alongside that is hard to come by at such a young age. So, yeah, I've been really impressed with her rise in the Sydney team, and she's at a good place. She's in a team that complements her style as well, and they're the only ways up, and I'm sure we'll be seeing her on the international senior stage in the near future.
And Teresa, obviously slightly outside of the club playing bubble now, and we speak about Sarah Hunter, but I guess I was just interested in how much, if at all, of a relationship you have with particularly some of the young players coming through in the competition. Is that something that you try to do to maintain those connections and try to have an influence on the field whilst also doing your work off it?
Look, I was part of Sydney FC for a very long time. So, anytime they want me involved with anything, I'll be there. I love the club, and I want to see the club succeed forever, to be honest. And look, they're all a lot younger than me, the girls at the moment. I always felt like, the old duck around that group and a bit of a mum. And now I am a mum. But I don't personally know a lot of the girls now very well. But I do remember Sarah Hunter joining the team, and I've sent messages here and there to players that, just encouraging them. And there was a funny article that came up with the altercation Hunter and I had during the NPL, and we just had a laugh over text about that. And that was a nice little video, and she said some nice words about me. But the girls know of me. I'm a huge supporter of the team. I always will be, and I want nothing but the best for that group.
Well, look, on the subject of things that are changing rapidly, I mean, once you're a mum to a playing group, now you're an actual mum, as you point out. And, once at one point, not all that long ago.
I don't know where you're going.
Not all that.
Really
Sorry,
to land.
Let me finish. Not all that long ago, the Liberty A-League season would be over. Instead, we have a bunch of new games. Obviously, it goes without saying that's a massive, massive boon. What do you think the biggest benefit is, though, to the extension of the season we have this year? And of course, it's going to go one better next year as well.
Yeah, look, there are so many benefits. I don't think it's just a matter of taking the best one out. I think all these small benefits sort of combine to just, make it the best thing. And the thing that our system needs the most is people, getting more game time. And if you look at the most recent Young Matildas squad just announced a few days ago, going down that list, you can see that most players are getting good minutes in the A-Leagues, and that's unprecedented. We've never seen that before for our youth teams. So that's the beauty of the way that the A-League, the Liberty A-League is now. And, next season there'll be 2 full rounds as well. So the more competitive minutes, you get as a youngster under your belt, obviously, the sooner you build on your experience. And, the best teams when it comes to crunch games, the teams with the most experience come out on top. And, when we're talking international, stepping up becomes a lot easier as well. So all these small but important changes are, in the grand scheme of things, are going to contribute to positive changes in the game as a whole.
But also it affords that window for teams who at this point their seasons would be dead and buried to chase something that otherwise wouldn't exist, and that is very much the case, or at least it seems that way at the moment, for Canberra, who broke a pretty long hoodoo that they had against Sydney FC. Sorry to bring it up, but it's just.
Look, why do you try to put the guests in that kind of spot?
Sorry, I'm just listing an objective.
I mean, it did happen.
I'm just see, Teresa's defending me. I'm listing an objective fact. Do you put much stock in the potential for Canberra to break into that top four? It feels like, they've changed from a team who are at their nadir to a team who are red hot in a couple of weeks. But yeah, all of a sudden you've got them and Perth sort of chasing a top four spot. Do you think either of them are likely to grab it?
Well, first of all, that's a great point you raise about, giving all teams an opportunity that wouldn't have had the opportunity in the old format. So, yeah, a lot of teams by this point were dead and buried, and often a lot of those teams are actually hitting form. So, in terms of Canberra, they've had an interesting run. I remember watching them against Newcastle, and they looked brilliant and unstoppable. Then they had the 2 thrashings. They copped 2 thrashings, and we were going, what is going on? And then they beat, arguably the best team in the competition. So definitely I think they can make a finals charge if they can keep that form going. They desperately need points. They are in touch. Brisbane are also in touch. You mentioned, who was the other one? Perth. Perth are making a late surge with 2 games in hand as well. Emphatic win over the Jets. So, there are a few teams that are not mathematically out of it and they're hitting form at the right time. So, yeah, I wouldn't rule any of those out.
I mean, it's called the Chaos League for a reason, isn't it?
Yes.
Teresa, obviously there are so many benefits and we've spoken about them from having the extended season. I did just want to flip the coin slightly and ask whether you foresee any challenges coming for the playing groups in particular having those longer seasons, and how much of a role do you think that will play in these next few weeks as we see this kind of unusual length of a season?
Yeah, look, a few issues are the leagues now overlapping with other foreign leagues, for example, the US league. So you're seeing players, starting the season with teams and then having to leave for their respective pre-seasons. For example, the US, the NWSL start pre-season, and they're actually requiring certain players to be back for that. So we're seeing, players like Alex Chidiac, having to leave her team. And there's been a few other, I think Chloe Lagazzo is going to be heading back to her team. So there are issues like that. We do need to lengthen the season, and unfortunately, for teams that are losing players like Chidiac, that's a huge thing for them. And I don't know what the solution is in terms of that. But yeah, something's, I guess, got to be sort of worked out because, long term, we don't want that happening.
There maybe, Teresa, there is for you one slight disappointment about the extension of the season, which is that it's going to be a lot easier for someone to come and take your games record. Is there not a tiny bit of you that's just like,
No, look, I never set out to sort of break that record. I'm, so privileged to hold that. But, look, it's there for the taking, guys. You never know, I might make a comeback to keep my name up there. But no, in all honesty, it's there for the taking. It's only positive that, the league's extending, and, I wish I could have been part of I said it every season, I wish that there were 2 rounds at least. So I'm happy that it's finally happening. But yeah, like I said, that record's there for the taking.
Well, just saying, Teresa, Alex Chidiac on the way out, Victory might need a new midfielder. Never say never. Never say never.
That to me today, and that's absurd. I'm nowhere near Chids' level of, creativity. She's on another level, and it's a bit too far gone for me at the moment.
But the barrier there isn't playing for Melbourne Victory. It's the Chids comparison.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the other thing. I couldn't see myself in any other jersey than Sky Blue, and certainly the Sky Blues don't need me. They're flying high, and it's good to see youngsters like Shea Holman coming in and absolutely tearing the competition apart. So, if it's not a Sky Blue, it's nothing.
See, we love the loyalty. We do love the loyalty. But before you go, Teresa, because we have to ask the serious questions here on Radio Dub. And obviously the serious question this week is, what's the song that you play for your kid that you were like, I don't want to hear it anymore. I'm done. Like, is it Coco Melon music? Like, what's the things that you're like, I'm done with it?
It's this lady called Miss Rachel on YouTube, and the babies are absolutely mesmerised by this woman. She is brilliant, but everyone I've introduced Miss Rachel to has said, like, they hate me for it because I guess in their words she's just completely annoying. But my daughter absolutely loves her, and seeing her face light up when, like, I don't like putting the TV on, but there's certain times, like, if I'm chopping an onion, you've got to get her out of the room. So but seeing her face light up it's a joy to see. So, yeah, Miss Rachel's helping me out a lot.
Okay, so Miss Rachel, maybe...
I'll remember that next time I'm chopping an onion. That's perfect.
Exactly. To get rid of anyone, Miss Rachel's the go. Well, Teresa, thank you for taking the time out of your day to come and speak to us. We really, really appreciate it. We hope to have you on another time. For sure. It's certain, right?
For sure, guys. For sure. Yeah, I'd love to come back on. It's been a pleasure joining you all.
No, we really appreciate it. We will head to a quick break, and then right after the break, we'll chat a little bit about the games over the weekend.
Are you looking to change your destiny in life? Be your own boss? Start your own business? If you are, you need people who understand your needs and are committed to helping you make it happen. At DKP & Co Chartered Accountants, we are more than just accountants. We are business advisors, taxation consultants, and strategists that specialise in setting up businesses. We understand the client and give them the very best customised advice and strategies to achieve their goals. Visit our website, dkpco.com.au, or give us a call today on 03 9023 9370. Fast, proactive, personal. That's DKP & Co Chartered Accountants.
Ever wanted a career in football? At the Global Institute of Sport, you can now study a master's degree in football business or football coaching and analysis right here in Australia. GIS is the largest provider of sports degrees in the UK, with campuses at Wembley and Etihad Stadium. Learn online with unique access to the iconic MCG and a big-hitting Australian industry network. Be one of the first Australians to get a football master's degree and join GIS's global network of football leaders. Apply now to start in February 2023. Learn more at gis.sport/FNR. That's gis.sport/FNR.
Pickett, she lays it off. Teresa Polias. It's an absolute peach. Is driving. What a hit from Melina Reyes. Wow. And Sam Kerr has a hat-trick.
And thank you for joining us for Radio Dub. If you're just joining us now and you missed out on our wonderful interview with Teresa Polias, that's okay. Because you know what? You can catch us on Spotify and all the others.
All the others.
You know why? Or like
we're not a Spotify exclusive, by the way. Pokuah just has their preferences.
No, we aren't a Spotify exclusive. But the problem, if Spotify wants to make us an exclusive, we'll most certainly take that. But I'm kidding. But
she's kidding. She would turn it down.
I'm kidding. No, please, no. But what I was saying was that it's because I only have Spotify on my phone. Even though I have like an iPhone, I only have used Spotify. So it's weird for me to talk about all these other platforms. But we are there. Lachie, do you use Apple Music?
I actually do use Spotify as well. I just like to be
I use
considerate
Apple
of.
Podcast.
Oh, see? Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
Oscar,
Available there as well.
So if you're a loser like Oscar, you can use Apple
Fair enough.
Podcasts
we
as
are
well.
not
actually don't have
disrespecting
Spotify.
the gigantic company that is Apple. If you would also like to make us an Apple exclusive, go for it.
So true.
So true, sure. Are we being beggars? Is that what's happening right now?
You might be.
I'm not.
No, I prefer to be a chooser.
Exactly. So, no, you know what? We aren't beggars. But let's talk about women's football because it's really important and we
Let's
really like it.
choose.
Let's choose to talk about it because we like that here and we find it really, really important. Some really fun games over the weekend.
Yeah, I'll tell you what wasn't fun.
Yeah.
Well, it's. I'm very conflicted coming back to this show because it's great to be back. I love talking to the three of you.
Three of us.
Sorry,
Three of
I
us.
do like to.
Oh
Well,
my God. The ego on this one here, Oscar, yeah? The ego on this one.
No, I was
It's actually just like he missed hearing his own voice in the headphones. He's like,
I want to say no,
I
but
haven't had this for ages.
I want to say no, but I was referring to Teresa before. Or at least I think I was.
Are you adding Teresa as another co-host?
Sorry, some of us just want to talk about the games.
Yes.
Some of us just want to
Okay,
talk about
go,
games.
go,
Their
please,
selves. Yeah, go on.
Conflicted because love talking to you guys. All two of you. And Teresa, who was on before. But one of the great things of recent episodes, because when it's been you and I on,
That's rare.
is discussing our
Recent? What?
our respective rankings in A-League Women's Fantasy.
Sorry, I haven't looked at it.
and
I had
I'm
such-
top of the
I
private
had a
league.
stinker.
I've usurped you and Teo to the top of
Am
the
I
league,
third?
but I've dropped out of the top 100 global rankings. I was at
haven't.
30 and I'm out of the 100.
Where am I?
So
I actually don't know.
the games were great, but my fantasy performance,
I had a stinker on the weekend. Like
Sydney FC losing just did
it
not.
ruined. It ruined. Mackenzie Hawkesby being out was not nice for my score.
Well,
But
anyway, shall we
can
start?
I say something really quickly
Sure.
about that? We were supposed to have an episode after me and Lachie faced off one-on-one, like faced off.
Yeah.
And I had won, and we had a guest on, and that guest unfortunately wasn't available. And I just feel like I need to take this moment to take that win because
Well, no, I'm top of the league, so
No,
who cares?
You are. But that week, Oscar, I sent Lachie a message and I was like, I was like to him, Kayla Morrison, her score is it's not gonna be enough for me to win.
It was -5.
It was
She
-5.
scored
It
no
wasn't
goal that
exactly.
week.
It's not gonna be great enough. And then Naomi Chinema said, you know what? I'm gonna have the performance of my life.
Yeah.
And I had already sent this message and I came through with a sensational, oh my God, words, sensational win over Lachie. Lockie's on top now, but don't worry about it, guys.
I feel kind of like one of those teams that is just like extremely cheating their XG though, because I'm top of the private league, but if you actually rank it by points scored, I'm fifth. So I feel like
I think I'm my highest point scored.
yeah, you are. You are.
I'm very good.
You're the highest ranked player you're the highest ranked player in what is officially TNC and Friends, the top league in
is
the
it?
world. It is the highest rate. It is the number one league.
Damn.
In A-League Women's, the whole of A-League Women's Fantasy.
I'm very
So
good.
we'll give ourselves on a pat on the
Let's
back.
talk about women's football.
Oh, well, I want to talk about, the reason I brought up who let me down on the weekend and having too many Sydney players is I want to talk about that game because, Canberra got a win that, did anyone give them a shot?
No.
Charlie's Rule didn't even give them a shot.
That's fair, but I like that. You know what? Because before that game, that is a fair statement. That is most certainly a fair statement to have made about Canberra and then to have made about Sydney themselves. To think that Sydney, I'd never overlook another team. I don't think that sets you up great. But Canberra were poor. Like they have continually, they didn't even look like they were unlucky to lose by the margins they lost. They were bad, and Sydney have been really, really good lately. So,
but this is the weird thing, and as Oscar said before, why the league right now is such a chaos league. 2 weeks ago, we were talking about Canberra experiencing one of the darkest periods of their history. They lost 5-0 to a team that had not won all season in the Wellington Phoenix, which was a shock.
yeah.
Was a shock. They then lost 5-0 to the league leaders. That's maybe a little bit more forgivable, but it was 10 goals
margin,
conceded.
though, the margin was, they were quite lucky as well in that game.
You are right. It could have been a lot more. They didn't score,
But you say that's what we were talking about 2 weeks ago. 4 weeks ago, we were talking about how great Canberra were and
Yes.
how Canberra were making a wonderful
Can
charge
somebody
towards the finals.
explain to me?
They
I want
fell
somebody
apart.
to explain to me what's happening with Canberra, because I don't know if they're good. Because I was firmly on this train and believed that they were a good team. I think they are a good team, but I cannot explain those 2 losses.
Your confidence was shot by them.
I was like, I don't get what's going on.
I mean, if I think one of the reasons perhaps is sometimes Canberra can be maybe a little bit too reliant on some of the older, more experienced, Canberra heads to get the job done for them. I mean, a lot of the games where they have had good results, it's been someone like an Ellie Brush or a Michelle Heyman who's popped up with something important. They're also maybe a little bit top heavy. They do have.
You can make those comments, but my problem with it, but how does over-reliance on experienced top-heavy players lead to 2 5-0 losses? I'm confused as to...
Well, because they're not always going to pop up with a goal that changes the game. Like Michelle Heyman scoring inside 4 minutes against Sydney FC changes that game. But
they looked all at sea. Are you saying that Canberra need an early goal to not become all at sea?
I'm not saying it explains away, but sometimes a goal... What does change a game?
Oh wow!
And players and star players will pop up with that sort of thing. I think it's a top heaviness issue. The defense is suspect.
I think the defense can be suspect. I will ask you this question, okay? If you think about Canberra's best 11, where do you think they rank in the league? Best 11, because I think it's pretty high up there.
I think offensively, midfield and attack, they're right up there. I'm not so sure.
I think Chloe Lincoln's a great goalkeeper. I'm a big fan. I think she pops up and makes saves that I don't think some other keepers in the competition would necessarily make. And for an 18-year-old, I think that's very impressive. So I get your criticism about their defense being shaky, but I certainly reckon if you would look at their 11, they might have one of. If we were next year in the finals, I think they're comfortably in the finals. If they played at their level.
Well, Canberra at their best, I feel like, have a strong claim for being kind of best outside the top 4, at least, kind of thing. I mean, well, what do you make of Adelaide United and those kinds of teams? But I would agree.
No.
You go. I was just going to say, but I would agree that at their best, with all their players fit and firing, they're absolutely right up there on the edge of the top 4.
Okay. Would you say that Canberra's best 11 on paper is better than Western United's best 11 on paper?
No.
Okay. I was just asking. I think Western United also.
No, I think Western United not only have a better squad, but they're also maximising. They don't have a better squad than the other teams in the top 4, but they are maximising.
They have a much more complete squad than Canberra.
Yeah.
Their defence is brilliant.
But Western United are also maximising what they have at their disposal. Absolutely. I don't know if Canberra, clearly they're not doing that as consistently. But, I mean, the actual performance aside, I wanted to tap into the actual numbers going into this game, because it had been 5 years since Canberra beat Sydney FC. Yes, they got back on track with that win over Newcastle, but we know Newcastle, talk about teams who are all at sea.
Newcastle beat Western United. Newcastle at the start of the year, I was having a lot of fun with
them. You were riding high.
I was having a lot of fun with that team. And then...
I mean, the fact that we can't form a consistent consensus amongst the three of us about quite a few of these teams shows how much of a chaos league it is. But they hadn't beaten Sydney in 5 years. It was 1,532 days since their last win against Sydney.
Who did the maths for you for that one?
They're not, I don't need to name check them. And during that time, hadn't scored for 9 hours. The combined score tally of all the games during that time was 17-0 in Sydney FC's favour. Yeah.
Wow.
This was as bogey as a bogey team can get.
Maybe that's why Charlie's Rule felt pretty confident heading into the game.
Yeah, quite possibly.
I do feel that's a misappropriation of the term bogey team, though. I don't think that's what makes a team a bogey team. Isn't a bogey team a team that you're not expecting to necessarily lose to, that you keep losing to, or that doesn't always add up? It makes sense that Sydney have been one of the dominant teams for the past 5 years, and that's a nitpick. I'm going to be honest.
I mean, it's a semantics thing.
It's a semantics thing.
Are you guys getting in beef in the first show you guys done together in the first little while?
I should have let it go. It bothered me when you said it, and I had to bring it up.
But do you think that changes anything about the way we see Sydney, that loss? Without Mackenzie Hawkesby, they against a Canberra side that I think they probably should have beaten, even without a player of her quality, who I think has been one of the best so far this season.
I mean, I don't think you can really, like, the absence of Mackenzie Hawkesby is a huge one. I mean, she's had a ridiculous season.
Better than last year?
I mean, not to start with, but she's definitely getting towards a place where I think she's as good as her form was throughout last year. She didn't start that way, but she's getting there. But I mean, I do think the opening goal happening so early, I think that really stunned Sydney FC, because it was a brilliant goal from Michelle Heyman. I thought at least.
Yeah, I think it was a good take. I when I saw it, I questioned if Jada Wyman didn't see it, like when it left her boot, because like Jada Wyman, she was her first game back from injury. I think that if Jada Wyman is like fully fit, and I'm not saying that she's not fully fit, but like more confident after coming back from an injury, I think she makes that save.
I do just want to go back though to your question about whether this changes our perception of Sydney. I think that the couple of games prior against Victory and against City, where Sydney went rampant and scored 9 goals across those 2 games and looked really, really good, I think that there may have been a slight... not to risk the wrath of the likes of Ante Juric and Teresa Polias, but I wouldn't... I feel like there was a tendency to read too far into those results, and that Sydney have, reasserted themselves as the dominant team in the competition, insofar as I think that those games where they got ahead early and they were able to hit in transition, which is where they are at their best, and you've got the likes of Courtney Vine and Princess Abini running into space, I feel like those really suited them, and that enabled them to kind of go on and have those really good performances. Whereas if they don't get that kind of initial game state advantage, then it's harder for Sydney. I'm not saying that they can't still win, and they usually still do. I'm just saying that I don't think that the gap between Sydney and, let's say, the rest of the top 4 was as big as it appeared for those couple of weeks.
Do you think that's the thing that stopped them? Because for Sydney, what you'll get from Sydney. They are a very reliable team. They play a very particular type of way, and they score their goals. They are a very safe and reliable team to pick, and I like them because I know what I'm going to get from them. Do you think that this is the reason that the finals have been such a issue for them, and getting over that final hurdle, that inability to sometimes assert their dominance early on in those sorts of games?
Well, and especially when you've got those finals games and the situation is different, the atmosphere is different, the feelings are different, I think it can be harder to kind of have that same fast start that Sydney often have, and that really puts the opposition team on the back foot. I will say, though, I think that Madison Haley has been sensational for the past few weeks. I do want to go back to that.
She's been great.
And, I'm not saying it's since she appeared on Radio Dub that she's been brilliant. I'm just saying that it's awfully coincidental that she's turned into... I would argue... We were having this discussion off air as to whether Madison Haley's the best striker in the league.
What do you reckon, Lachie? Do you reckon she is? I think that it's Hannah Keane.
I also think that it's Hannah Keane.
And I totally get it. I do. But this is a great way to head on. Oh, go, sorry.
Sorry, just as an aside, during that interview, were you guys aware of Madison Haley's lineage,
yes.
her parentage?
We asked about it.
You know that I love the NFL, and you think I would allow Madison Haley to come on the show and not just say my little bit of disappointment?
Well, I just wanted to make sure. Yeah, no, because I feel like not enough people are talking about
I made her aware that I'm not going to hold it against her that her dad played for the Niners and the Cowboys, 2 teams that I can't stand, because go Pack go. But speaking of Hannah Keane, who we were talking about a little while ago before we made that transition.
Another person who appeared on Radio Dub and has been brilliant ever since.
Yes, and you can catch that on Spotify and everything else. Western United, comeback win.
Spotify and everything else again, really?
Yeah. Western United.
And Apple Podcasts.
And Melbourne City. Comeback win for Western United. What did you think of the game, guys?
What did I think of the game? Well, I mean, Teo Pellizzeri during Dub Zone described them as the comeback queens, Western United, and I think they've earned that moniker. It's really fascinating because you sort of compare and contrast this comeback against Melbourne City to the previous one, And obviously, the lead into that game, Western United are multiple games undefeated. They've got Jess McDonald. They have Chloe Lagaza, whose cameo is instrumental.
Yes, absolutely.
Instrumental in securing that win. And you're coming into this game, they've lost a couple. They've lost to the Newcastle Jets in a game where it wasn't like an unlucky loss. They looked really bad. They looked really, really bad. And you're thinking... they don't have those people who were the orchestrators of a big win over City last time. I'm not necessarily giving them a lot of chances, but they did.
Yeah.
They did. They gave. It was a competitive game. I don't think there was too much in it in terms of which team.
I think the first half, City absolutely dominated that game, and Western United found it really, really difficult to get out and create anything going forward. They had maybe one or two opportunities, but that was cut out really quickly by the City defence. I think City let them back in this game. That pass from Sally James to Emma Checker, or that attempt of that pass, put them at a really unnecessary position and allowed Western United a foot back in the game they should not have, because Melbourne City in the first half, Briley Henry, Chelsea Blissett, Hannah Wilkinson, they had opportunities to put multiple goals past them, and Western United, the one thing that's been that centre-back partnership with Cummings and Cern, that's been like relatively solid throughout the entire year. That's kept them in this game, I reckon.
Yeah, 100. And that was a huge difference from the game against Newcastle, where obviously those two players didn't start together as well, and that did make a difference. But I do want to touch on that, the Sally James situation, or the error. It's not just her error. It's a combination. It's a combination of people that lets Western United back into the game. This is a huge concern for City.
Yeah,
this is a really, really big concern, because not only did it cost them probably 3 points on Saturday afternoon, but this is not even the first time it's happened. They have conceded quite a few goals, and it's a conversation topic that other people on other programs have picked out as well. As they try to pass out from the back, it's arguably one of, if not their most vulnerable areas in terms of conceding goals.
I think it works for the team to play from the back, and I understand what they're doing. I think the problem they have now, though, is that the lack of movement they have up front means that they hold the ball for so much longer than they need to do that. Because when Cote Rojas was there, playing off with Briley Henry at the start, they were constantly moving with her and Polias, and were moving all the time. So there was always a pass to be found, and they were creating shapes on the pitch. But they've become almost static with Hannah Wilkinson up front. Because she, I don't think she's particularly, her skill is holding up the ball or things like that. They are trying to find these passes that are just not there because they're not moving, because the centre forward, that's not the way she plays the game. And I think that Dario Vidicic... It's
become more of a channel
Dario Vidicic is still yet to figure out what needs to be changed in order to fix that.
But this is the thing. I actually agree with you, Pokuah, when you were saying that first half, that was the best I think Melbourne City have played under Dario Vidicic. They actually looked a lot more dynamic with the ball. It's the paradox of, I know they lost the game, but the first pass was like, I haven't been convinced, for the reasons that you're saying, of the way that they can't actually progress the ball. There's a lot of passing it between the centre backs, and then maybe we'll try and pass it out wide, and Rihanna Policina is the only one who's often providing that creative outlet. But we saw so much more than that in the first half. We saw Julia Grosso getting more involved. I thought Hannah Wilkinson played her best in a while, because she did do the things that you were talking about.
I will say that I think that Caitlin Torpey and Grosso, they try to be inverted at times. They try to come inside, and I think that that's a thing they need to try use more to be more effective.
Well, that's so much of how they progress the ball, is through those wide areas, and they were so often not involved enough in the game. So to actually see that change, that was the most promise I saw from them.
Yeah, I think that if they need to, work with the inverted fullbacks a little bit more and see how that gets them, because Grosso going forward is actually like a threat, and Torpey has got her passing in the other, like the opposition half, is some of the best in the competition. So they're players that they can use, and I'm still waiting on when Cote Rojas is back. I'm not quite sure.
They need her back.
Yeah, they need her back, and Holly McNamara is coming back also.
That'll be a big addition.
I think that I want to know if it's possible to have Hannah Wilkinson drop deeper, to come and collect the ball and see if she can get that to a game where she can play out and there's a little bit more link up, because they're becoming very static and their weaknesses have been their weaknesses for a while. So
yeah, but they're especially prevalent against a team who are who are organised defensive.
Yes,
like I don't think it's funny because we're talking about like Sydney and Western United. Arguably, their biggest problems this season have been playing against. On paper, inferior opposition, teams lower than them on the table, who will just let them have the ball and not necessarily allow those two teams to have the ball in situations that they would like to have it, like to attack it. For City, it's almost it's almost an opposite kind of problem. Like they want the ball, they're happy to have it in any kind of context, but it's against the teams who are at their level, the teams they're competing with, who are the ones that give them problems. And that the defensive organisation of Sydney and Western United, I think, has been a big key why they've been, beaten in both of those, or against both of those opponents.
I do just want to make one more point, which is that because I know you and I have been huge on Caitlin Torby for a while. She's sensational. She's been brilliant again this season. She doesn't get a lot of talk, but she's so important to City. Was last season, is this season. She's a brilliant player. You two are pointing at each other now. So
I'm pointing at this because I remember last year, Pokuah she was sitting right where I'm sitting now, and she had a notepad and pen. And it would have been the early days of Radio Dub, and she was trying to figure out who she should put in her A-League Women's team of the season.
I do remember this.
And she was scrambling around. She had a billion different names on this piece of paper that she was trying to refine down into an 11. And she's like, right back. What do I do? And I walked into the room and I was just like,
here we go.
I walked into the room, I shrugged my shoulders and went, it's Caitlin Torby.
Yeah, no fair. No, it's fair. It took me too long to figure that out. I will admit
I thought that was going to be a credit to Pokuah. You were going to do a big story about how Pokuah knew the whole time. But no, it wasn't.
This is Lachie coming back with his ego. This is what's happening.
I'm saying the genesis of the Caitlin Torby Appreciation Society.
Yeah.
3 members present.
Yes.
It was formed in this room.
This is my team of the season, and I didn't know that's what you did. But yeah, I accept your point.
You weren't a thing back then, Oscar.
You weren't a thing. He wasn't. Oscar, don't get offended. You know it's facts.
I am offended.
Be honest.
There's nothing wrong with independently coming to the same conclusion as me, Oscar.
I want to just quickly pivot to Western United, because obviously we talked about the deficiencies of Melbourne City, the reason why they lost this game, and that allowing Western United to get back in this game. Hannah Keane scoring her 10th goal of the season. What do you think do you think Western United are back on track, or do you think that this comeback deserved? So what do you think?
I don't think... Did we learn a great deal about Western United in this game necessarily?
I think we learned one really important thing, which is that they can still win without Jess McDonald, which I know sounds obvious, but they've struggled since she left.
But they've done that before. They did that with the first game after they won.
But then they looked a bit lost.
Yes.
I felt that they would struggle to adapt without Jess McDonald because she's so good and was so important in those games. And when they weren't playing well, she would get them out of jail. And so not having her, I think, has held them back. So I think that I think they're a worse. There's no doubt they're a worse team for not having Jess McDonald, even though they've recruited
worse is such a strong word. I don't know if I like you using it like that.
Okay, they're not as good of a team.
Inferior.
Yeah. They're a less good team on account of not having Jess McDonald, even though they have recruited brilliantly as well. So I don't have the answer to how that will pan out across the course of the rest of the season, whether they can maintain their status as the top dogs.
I think X's and O's wise, it's not necessarily like we don't take too much out of it. Western United are a team that have clearly a really solid resolve and a very good character, and that's why they're allowed or able to motivate themselves to these comeback wins. It's not a surprise that they can function decently and keep at bay a team who like to have lots of the ball and recycle possession. For me, I don't look at these games necessarily, the big games, as the test. I feel like they've proven themselves in these kind of fixtures. I look at 2 weeks from now at the number 2 sports ground between Newcastle and Western United. They're playing that team who despite being poor either side of the game, did beat them pretty comprehensively on the scoreline and on the park. That's the test. How do Western United attack those games and get results? Can they show some improvement there? It's what's interesting.
I will give them a little bit of leeway on that game because they made so many changes to that squad. And they made so many changes at halftime in that game, which I don't think those substitutions necessarily made them better than what Mark Tolcasa would have wanted. But my concern about Western United, I still believe in them. I think they're a really, really good team. And I think having resolve now is really important when you get to finals, because there will be really difficult moments, especially for a side that have never been there. You establish those, those habits now, it will serve them well as the season progresses into the latter stages, right? And they can solidify their top 4 spot. My concern about them has been at times in those 2 losses that I saw Hannah Keane coming back to drop deep to come and collect the ball, which I think is one of the things that makes her a really great footballer and really valuable to Western United. But my issue was I wasn't seeing enough movement on the wings with whoever they chose. Was it Kylie Johnson or whoever they decided to play? And I'm not just picking on Kylie Johnson. I just can't remember the other wingers at this current stage. But I wasn't seeing enough movement, and as soon as Hannah Keane was getting that ball, they were losing possession, almost immediately, because she wasn't having an outlet pass. And when Jess McDonald was there, it was always somebody for her to link up with. This game, they stepped up and they got the win. Do they have the players needed to be linking up with Hannah Keane right now? Take a deep breath and
I'll say yes, they do.
Okay.
I think it's harder
Yep.
without Jess McDonald. But, they just beat Melbourne City over the weekend, who are absolutely right up there with arguably being their biggest competitor. They're second on the ladder.
Yep.
So it's...
But with Sydney
having games in hand, albeit, yes. Yes, of course they do. It's just a question of whether that's as sustainable as it was with Jess McDonald.
What do you think, Lachie?
No, I agree with what Oscar has to say, but also it's kind of a moot point. Who are this is who they've got.
Yeah.
They can't go and bring someone else in. I don't think they have dispensed. I'm not sure they're allowed to bring in a second guest marquee. In fact, I don't think they are. Yeah. So, these players have to be the players who can provide that foil for Hannah Keane, because there is no one else. I think that I think potentially Kylie Johnson is someone who...
I think she's a player for the future. That's my...
I don't know. I feel like she's developing. She's not...
No, absolutely. And
I'm not expecking Jess McDonald level output
and that's
from
not
her.
But
that's
certainly not what I'm saying. I'm saying that I think, she's a player that for the future, I think the Western United this is a player that we want to continue developing and is going to get better. She's definitely not at the full set of her capabilities as a footballer. And I'm not picking on her. It's just the first player that I can remember.
I don't know. You seem to hate her for some reason.
I don't. I certainly, I do not. I most certainly do not let that man put those words into my mouth. That is not the case. I like all A-League women's footballers players, and I want them all to do well. But do you want to talk about, there's a few more games over the weekend, but I think that a big result was the draw between Brisbane Roar and Melbourne Victory. That draw, it's for Melbourne Victory, they're 4th at the moment in that top 4 race. Alice Chidiac is on her way out, going back to Louisville. Yeah. So they are, I know I said last week the Western United were probably the biggest ones who are most likely to fall out, and you said Melbourne Victory potentially could be that. And it looks like with the win to Western, Victory have found themselves in that position now. Are they going to stay in this top 4, right? Are they going to stay in top 4?
If I were them, I'd be pretty bloody worried, to be perfectly honest with you. The squad is still a solid one on paper. They will welcome players back, but Chids has been... she's been the alpha and omega for them this season. Like she's been there, everything.
You are
like
touching biblical terms.
what? No, I'm just. What, I mean, if there's a player in the A-League Women's right now who deserves to be who deserves to be referred to in biblical terms, I think Alex Chidiac is right up there. I mean, what is it? 5 goals, 6 assists.
Do you know
this
she
season
wasn't due a goal this week? Because if you actually look at the order, there's been like a game between every goal that she scored. So, and I think that she scored the week before, so she wasn't expected to
consecutive penalties, right?
Yeah. So she wasn't expected to
But like that's an immense output.
Yes.
That is an immense output.
Considering all like her past in terms of like goal scoring in the dub, this has been by far her best goal scoring season. It's been phenomenal.
Yeah, it's that the absence of a player like that has the potential to leave a colossal vacuum in this victory side. I mean, I put the question to you guys, and this is what gives me the concern, I guess. Who is the player that steps into that void?
It's weird because
the goal scoring void is filled by Melina Ayres.
Yeah, so that's okay there in that aspect. Because
but who can be that?
It's weird
creator and step in and hit the ground running.
It's so strange for Victory in this position because 2 seasons ago, Kyra Cooney-Cross was that player in that midfield, and she did a great job. But she had a breakout season that's culminating in the goal in the final. And then last season, Chids came in and Kyra Cooney-Cross was trying to find her feet playing alongside Chids, but Chids did so great. And Kyra Cooney-Cross, I think she found her way as the season kind of progressed. And now they won't have either of those players. So I'm not sure. I don't know if there's not a player that automatically comes to mind. So I think it's going to be more of a collective efforts this season as opposed to an individual player having really like brilliant moments. Not to say they haven't been a great collective team over the time, because they have, and they've had key players in really big positions. But this season is going to be a bigger team effort. Oh my God! Look at
wow.
you.
This is why I don't have 3.
Yeah, teething issues. Right, yeah.
It's a crowd.
Too many cooks in the kitchen. No, I was just gonna say that I think. I can't remember what I was going to say. I was going to say that I think Victory's saving grace may be the fact that to drop out of the top 4 requires a consistent, strong finish to the season from one of Canberra, Brisbane, Perth. And none of those sides have demonstrated a capacity to consistently win. Now, that's not saying that they won't.
I mean, Perth have won 3 in a row.
That's true, but that's
about as consistent as you get.
I accept
and
that has
changed. We had Alex on last week, and he made us more confident. You know that.
I agree that I think that if any of those sides is going to nip into the top 4, it would be Perth Glory, on the basis that we're talking about that they've shown the most consistency in recent times, although that has only stemmed following a period of much uncertainty. So that could be the one thing that saves Victory is the only thing I was going to put out there.
I'll say that we us 3 on this pod, we're big fans of Alana Murphy and Paige Joyce. We think they're really, really good players. Could we see with more consistent, even though they have had a lot more consistent minutes this season than they have in the past, could we see those guys, if they have to take that role, could we see them make that leap? It's a short turnaround though.
Jeff Hopkins is a coach as well. I think that he has shown a capacity to adapt in the past, so there is hope there. And as you say, there is young talent. I think Ava Breedis is another player who hasn't been given the opportunities that would allow her to really take it to the next level so far this season, and maybe that would change now that Chids isn't there.
I mean, it's probably one of those 3, and that's the point I was going to make before, is you look at those 3 options who were on the bench on the weekend. 2 of them came off on, one of them didn't. Those are really the 3 likely options. You almost, if you could combine all 3 of them together, I think you could get Alex Chidiac. But individually, it's a lot harder, because I think Murph has got that like dynamism in terms of her ball carrying ability, but I think she's a lot better served doing that slightly deeper. But also because she reads the play exceptionally well. In my view,
did you first see her play, Lachie?
Well, I actually never saw her play at Langwarrin, but yes, contractually, I must mention every time I say Alana Murphy that
I didn't know you were mates, Murph. All right, yeah, you go way back to Langwarrin.
Anyway,
if you're everyone from Langwarrin, family, it's family.
we call everyone Murph at Langwarrin. That's just what we do.
Paige Joyce, yours.
Paige Joyce has definitely got the passing range to be, and the technical ability to be a player who racks up assists from the 10 spot. But I don't know if she has that dynamism in her sort of like carries progression that Chids has.
It's a bit reserved at times. Her play can be a bit reserved.
And I think Breedis has got that, but she's still raw. She's a little bit unrefined. She's still really, really young. If you took all of the best bits of those players and made them into one, then you wouldn't have any concern about replacing Alex Chidiac.
It comes to a situation where I think that Jeff Hopkins, obviously, I think that this probably something that would work for his side. It just depends on who they play. And it depends on who they're going to need more to step up in that game because...
But it will have to be one of them.
Yeah, it will have to be one of them. One of them is going to have to make a really big leap. And I think it serves them well that they've played minutes this season because I think last season they weren't playing as consistently. There were games where they just weren't coming on at all. And they've been a lot more consistent minutes and staggered. So the growth it's there this season that can be seen.
Can I throw a little, now that I've just said it should be one of those three players, can I throw a little just pebble into the water?
Pebble into the water.
I know BD Goad has been
sensational. No, we're all
I
in
was
on
literally going to say this, but go on.
I know BD Goad has been really, really good she's been really good on the left, and she is naturally a left-sided player. Could she be the one who does fill that void centrally? Maybe you pop a Zoyce or Murphy couldn't do it, but Breedis could. Breedis can slot potentially on a wide position and Goad's the one who shoulders that creative ball.
I was literally going to make that point, tongue-in-cheek, to be honest. Although BD Goad does have a career of playing in a whole bunch of different positions. She can do anything, and she's been so good this season.
I think that she's been one of... It's weird to say because she's a Matilda that she's been one of the biggest and best surprises this season because of how high she's gotten in the football. But it was a bit of a slow start, but the Victory side had a slow start as an entire squad. But this season, her and Chits have been so consistent and so reliable. Even in games where Victory haven't been great, they've both been phenomenal and have moments of brilliance. So potentially she could
that's an
fill
option.
that.
I think that's also just kind of the way you interpret BD Goad or how BD Goad. She's not a religion
text.
No, but the way the way she's someone who gets her head down and just does the work. She doesn't. She's headlines or attention. She just does her job. And so I think that's why she's been underrated for a while.
For her qualities and I think it's the same thing about a few players in the competition. They just seem to work really, really hard. They may not have one thing that they're great at. You know what I mean? That you're this is phenomenal. It's the best thing I've ever seen. But they just do all the little things right and all the basics. And it makes them really hard to look past because some players in 90 minutes will drop and they just won't they won't be there for 20 minutes. You won't realize they're there. But these sorts of players who are just constantly working, doing the little things are really important for sides. And I think if Victory have enough of that, and I think they do have enough of those players who just kind of worked really hard, and BD Goad is spectacular. That can get them, maybe can see them through to top four.
Yeah, I think they'll still make finals. I still think it's the boring answer, but I think the top four now will be the top four it is by the end of the season. The order might change a little bit, but yeah, I don't see it changing from the current makeup. But if there is a team that would be the most concerned about the race that's to come, I think it would definitely be Victory.
Yeah, it would be. And
sorry, Miranda Templeman, co-host of the show, if you're watching, for me casting doubt over your club's finals.
I just want to say this. Miranda Templeman, her penalty saves, spectacular. Honestly, came in a really tough situation in that Sydney game, but obviously one of them went in after, but two really big, penalty saves.
Two.
Two.
Who makes 2 penalty saves in a game? Philip Curtis.
But
other than this weekend.
Yeah, but no.
Sorry, just a random fact about that 2 penalty saves, 3 penalty saves in a game. In Opta's recorded history, which goes back to, I think, 2005 now, in the whole world, it's only happened twice.
When was
that was
the
a third time. I think in Germany it happened once.
Cares?
I don't know exactly, but
Who cares?
3 penalty saves in one game. I think it's only happened 2 other times.
Well, this is a women's
in the
football
past.
podcast, so we'll stick to that topic. We'll hit just one, little briefly. Perth Glory, 4-0 victory over Newcastle.
Radio dub bounce.
And I
It's a
just
thing.
honestly, and I just want to
It really
say,
is.
but Sydney did lose, so I don't know if it's technical bounce.
Yeah, okay, that's true.
But what I will say is that I want to speak about that game because Perth are obviously, as we've spoken about, probably the side most likely to make the top 4 if all things went their way because of the games in hand. But I want to talk about the goals because there was some of the best goals that I've seen throughout the season. Really, really great goals.
Yeah, I mean, I think 2 of the 4 goals in this game were, up there with the top 5 goals of the entire round. I mean, I just really wanted to start off this sort of unpacking of this game by saying 2 things. The first one is, I just love watching Sierra Hinson.
Yes.
Just do her thing. I just think she's a great, great player. And to see her score some absolute rippers was very pleasing, even if she does do that often. And also, Izzy Folletta.
Yeah. Big
What a
fan.
find.
No, big find.
What a find.
Her assist against Western United a couple of weeks ago was just what?
She's
That was
been
insane.
Excellent. She's been excellent. The cavalry that Alex Epakis has called on after some unfortunate injuries to replenish this squad. I mean, the results show you, but the performance is even more so. So it has paid dividends.
I think that Perth have went through a really the start of the season wasn't great for them. I think heading into this season, I think we expect a lot more from Perth and Adelaide especially. But when they're firing Perth, they have some really great young talent.
I mean, it's you look at the squad on paper, it's actually pretty good.
It's a pretty good side that and a lot of their players are so incredibly young that are doing things that you're like, wow, how is that how are you guys doing that? And I think a lot of credit does need to go to Alex Epakis for creating a system that these players are able to flourish in and do really, really well. And I believe in Perth, even if they don't make top 4 this year. I think that comes down to the start of the season not being great for them, but they have, if they can continue this kind of wave.
You do kind of wonder, obviously they wouldn't necessarily have brought in some of the players that they have, but if Riley Bayston doesn't, it's a sliding doors moment. If she doesn't do her ACL, they have that kind of downturn in form. They go a really long time without playing a game as well.
But I think it helped them to reset as a side. I think we spoke
after
we spoke about that.
The loss of that player, I think it certainly has.
And, in terms of the sustainability of Perth, and we spoke about, do they have the capacity to keep this going? I think the thing that works in their favour is, we spoke to Alex Epakis last week. That's not the thing that works in their favour. The thing that works in their favour is what
some
Alex
would
Epakis
say that it
said.
does.
The thing that works in their favour is what Alex Epakis said, which is, I really liked how much, and I know it's kind of what coaches will say often, but, I really believed him when he was talking about, not thinking about who they're playing or what they're playing or kind of the outside noise, and being incredibly internally focused. And I think that that's really powerful, particularly with a young group of players, to get them kind of thinking about the process and the system rather than, the noise coming from elsewhere.
Yeah. So you go.
I just want to flag their run home: Brisbane, Western Sydney, Adelaide, Wellington, Melbourne City, Sydney FC, Brisbane.
Those 2 games before the final one.
The 2 games back to back,
That's tough. Really
those will be hard, but the rest of them,
they're all winnable games. Winnable games. But in saying winnable games in the dub can also mean incredibly losable games.
That's true.
Is that a word, losable?
Losable
Is
games.
it a word?
If winnable is, then losable is. But yeah.
We'll go with that, sure. But no, let's talk just a quick thing on Newcastle. I know they lost this game like 4-0, but the first half they were a lot better than I've seen them like throughout this like season. They were a lot more composed as a side. Defensively is a big issue, and with Sarah Griffiths leaving as well, it takes a big hit to their attacking prowess. But it's tough.
It's funny you should say that, because I actually thought after the Canberra game a couple of weeks ago, a game they also lost on the scoreline very convincingly. I mean, I actually thought in the first half they were pretty good in that game. I think that was their first game under Gary Van Egmond, and they looked all right. It was a very competitive game. It just happened to be that Canberra scored, halftime happens, and then it was a little bit different thereafter. But between the first half in that game, the Western United win, and according to you, Pokuah, you saw more of the game than I did the first half against Perth. It looks like a pretty depressing couple of weeks, but I think there's definitely some green shoots there.
Yeah, they've got, if they are able to bring back Sarah Griffiths and Murphy Agnew next season, because I think they're great players, and I think that if Newcastle aren't getting them, I think anyone in the dub would be very happy to get them, especially Murphy Agnew. I think such a smart and intelligent player, and does a lot for Newcastle, even when they're really, really struggling. I just want to see Newcastle play a consistent brand of football and fix some of the defensive issues. I know they conceded 4 goals, but they conceded some really great goals that in other games maybe don't go in. I just want to see them defensively be a little bit more stable and just less so yo-yo effect with them as a side. And then we'll see where they go from next season and see which coach they bring in as the permanent and head coach, and what ideas they're going to bring to the side.
It's a funny thing as well, isn't it, about the whole of the dub, is we're like, X team needs to shore up their defence. But also, as neutral observers, we get goals, we get rippers every week, we get high-scoring games. Do we really want the defences to tighten up all that much? That's what I'm
prioritise attacking recruits.
That's what I'm saying.
Maybe we'll see. But there's no dub action this weekend.
No.
We got the Matildas coming in on Matilda. That's on Thursday.
Yeah.
Their first game against
Czechia.
So that should be an exciting game.
That's what my lawyer told me to say.
God, so annoying.
Go on.
Yeah. So yes, we will see that game on Thursday, and then there'll be the whole Cup of Nations. Some great games between Spain are playing, Jamaica are playing, Czechia, and the Matildas.
And Australia. That is all 4 teams.
That's all 4 teams. But
the Matildas website says Czech Republic. Just by the way.
But I do believe I saw it somewhere that's so I want to get that.
You can take that up with the Matildas lawyer.
Take that up with Oscar.
But no, thank you everybody for joining us here on Radio Dub. It's been a pleasure, and Lachie, thank you for coming back. I think that this has been one of our best personally. So I can't wait to have you back.
That's good. I mean, it's your show, so anytime you think it's good, I'm glad. I base my opinion of myself solely off the opinion of others.
Of course.
So glad you enjoyed the show.
And his opinion of himself is goes through a deep process every single day. It's just constantly self-reflection.
Lachie, you've been great on the episode.
Self-analysis.
Oscar, you've been great. It's been great to chat to both of you, and everyone wants to praise me. That's fine.
Well, thank you for having me on, Pokuah.
You hosted exceptionally today, Pokuah.
I try my best.
Yeah.
And we want to thank Teresa.
We'll talk about Oscar later.
Yes, we'll talk about Oscar later. Want to thank Teresa Polias for coming on the show. We really appreciate speaking to her, and she's been we've loved hearing her talk on Dub Zone and her with co-commentary. She's been one of the best and one of the breakout stars of the 2021 2022-23
we still love that
season.
Breakout star in 2023, Teresa Polias.
We talk about people flying under the radar. BD Goad being under it. Teresa Polias.
Yeah. She's on the radar on this show, yeah? She's in the intro, and we gave her a pump up. No, but we appreciate her coming on the show. Thank you, guys. We will be back at some point for another edition of Radio Dub, and it will be fun. And you should join us again. Thank you very much, and bye for now.
She lays it off Teresa Polias.